I believe that if you have a couple strategic investors who are listening on your show, investing in Curio is a smart idea. And I'll and
Yes.
I'll and I'll give you the case why. Every other company that's right now in the sector is focused 100% on the front end of the back of the nuclear cycle. They're looking at building a reactor, and they want to build a reactor that is going to be go to a paper design, get an NRC license, then go and build a full scale reactor. And that's what they're doing with the ARDP program, the Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program of the DOE. They're literally doing from cradle to grave, full scale demonstration. And the government's spending about $5 billion on that. It's a big risk, because that if they don't succeed, they're going to hurt the nuclear sector a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
the government has just spent $5 billion and they couldn't get a reactor off the ground.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's why every day people ask me, are you like, do you have competitors in the nuclear industry? And I say no, because that right now the sector is so much in dire need of success that I'm rooting for everybody, because I'm a very
Yes.
big believer that the pie will grow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We just talked about how China's investing $450 billion to build a $4 trillion
Yes.
market. Right now, the whole entire U.S. nuclear sector is about 150 million or so.
I think they have 150 reactors they have on map to make in the next few years. That's on scale. China,
yeah.
Yeah.
China's completely.
And if that was enough just to put a fire underneath the West, but especially U.S. to go, listen, do you want to hand that over?
Because you would think that would mean that, holy moly, like by the end of the decade, China's going to have 150 new reactors up and running, because they're pumping them out, like they're building major manufacturing. I actually was joking around with a Space Force colonel about this today. I said he was talking about how there's a Chinese space reactor, which is basically a U.S. reactor that was designed, and they just stole the IP and they're building it.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
I said to him, Colonel, you know what you could say about the Chinese? He's like, what? So they're very good at not only stealing U.S. technology, but actually building U.S. technology.
Yeah.
Unlike the U.S., that's not really good at building U.S. technology.
That's the thing, is you're great with inventing everything. It's like, let's start making it now. Like,
exactly. And that's really what we're not doing. And I think that that's something that needs to be done. We need to build again. We need to manufacture again. And we're not doing that. We really are not doing that. And I think that it needs to be done. That's why I kind of like, when I started Curio as in part of my venture studio, I was like, how could you bring value to the nuclear sector in a way that no one else is? And I think that by doing nuclear waste recycling first and really kind of cracking that nut, we have this now. It gives us all these opportunities for all these new verticals where you can then rationalize building reactors and rationalize doing all kind of interesting things, because at the end of the day, you're maximizing the efficiency of the waste and turning nuclear into a circular, almost renewable source of energy.
And you're also getting in front of that, like, number one thing you hear from every environmentalist: what about the waste? Well, I don't want to do it. Boom.
We've raised in the last and look, it's been very hard raising money, because that people don't, and you know this, people don't like investing in things that take a long time.
Yes.
And I think that the mining industry is a perfect example of where there's this major issue of funding, because that all the investors, if you have a mine and it's fully operational, you could find every Joe Schmo will come in and invest money in your mining company when you're producing, right?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
even if you're producing an ounce of gold a day, you will have 20 investors down the block who will tell you, here, I'm ready to do project financing for you and scale you up to 50 ounces a day, right?
Yeah.
But if you say, I have this really cool gold asset and we need to develop it, we need X amount of money, they'll tell you, yeah, no, not for me. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? There's like basically more gold there than like all of Africa,
Yeah.
like, and there are places like that where there's like these sites where there's crazy silver, gold deposits that are just out of control. You need to develop them, and people are like, oh my gosh, a mining project?
Yeah.
They just don't want to do it. So the same thing I think over here, and it's like very interesting, because that unlike mining, where the geographic and stratigraphic composition is so complex that every single mining site needs its own little type of processing development, the waste is all the same.
Yes.
You just need one technology. that becomes like the gold standard, which is what we're trying to get Curio to be. It's just getting to the proof of concept and demonstration. We've already done the proof of concept, but now doing the demonstration that we're going to be doing over the next 2 years with the radiated fuel in partnership with the Department of Energy with ARPA-E. We have to raise about give or take another 3 million or so. We've raised already 4, and it's keeping us open for the last 2 years, and now we just got to raise another 3 to keep us open for the next year and a half or so till we finish up all the data and show it out. And once that happens, you'll see a lot of folks will then be the Series A to raise the 50 million at the $500 million valuation is going to be a lot easier than the 7 million at the $75 million valuation. And that's just how it is.
It is that irony that once you're getting a larger sum, once you're there is significantly easier. Now, does this March 21st, the gain voucher, does that help in any way? That's definitely a good recognition.
We've done something I don't think a lot of folks have done, and it's very unique, but it was very high risk, but at the same time was very smart. So we got about $7.25 million so far from government grants, 6.5 from the ARPA-E program, and another $1 million from GAIN, and 2 different GAIN vouchers. So we now have all of our core technologies in actual development. So what we did was we had 2 options. We could either take the money ourselves and pour it into our company and scale up and build a fancy engineering team and a fancy facility, blah, 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 blah. But then we would also need to then raise another 50 million because you need to have upfront to build all these national lab capabilities to demonstrate this technology. So we said, no, we're going to go partner with 4 national labs, create 4 important stakeholders: Idaho National Lab, Oak Ridge National Lab, PNNL, Pacific North National Lab in Washington State, and Sandia National Lab in New Mexico. And by doing that, we put all the money into the national labs. And by doing that, we saved about $45 million in upfront development costs.
Yeah.
And we're going to have real fuel recycled. We already have equipment that we're tooling with the labs. And they have all those capabilities that we would have never had.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of deep tech companies don't do that. And I think that they should. But like people want the money. Yeah, it would have been great to have a 3-year runway from an ARPA-E program. But then what? And maybe we would have found like a public university to do some experiments with them, right?
Sure.
But then we would have not been able to be on that accelerated timeline that we are on today. So it's been a very interesting path.
No, I think that's an excellent approach. I mean, that accelerate, like having access to that and 4 different labs. I think that it makes a good story in the back end. I could see as well when you come out with results, you've got supported by 4 different teams when you're at that stage. But it's definitely a big, exciting momentum currently now.
No, for sure. And what I'm looking to do is, if I hope that if it succeeds, when it succeeds, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we pull off, when we get all the funding, and you kind of, like you said, look back and like be like, okay, like now I could wipe the sweat off my brow. It will have been done the right way. And that's really what's not being done anywhere else, is that we're taking this scaled up approach, right? So we're doing our demonstration, and we're going to use our demonstration as a basis to build a pilot.
Yeah.
And we're going to use our pilot as a basis to build our engineering demonstration unit as a full scale 1 module. And then we're going to take that module and we're going to say, okay, now replicate this times 10 in our full scale facility. That's how we should be building nuclear, because of the regulatory matrix that exists around it. And just like the whole thing, you have to show, if people could come and they could watch and they could go and they could see, then they're a lot more at ease. They see that it's safe, it's operating, it's running, it's at a national lab, it's producing results. And that's something that's not being done with other reactor companies. And I wish they did.
Yeah.
NuScale, they have an NRC license, but they've never actually built a reactor.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
That is
that's kind of my high level thoughts on it.
Listen, I'm excited for the potential, and especially, like I said, there's been some false starts where you think it's going to happen. But I think this announcement, especially from the U.S., I wasn't expecting such, I would say, aggressive announcement of commitment by 2050. I mean, I've always known that the more Republican side, they're okay with nuclear, it was often the Democrats, but the Democrats seem like they're pretty okay with it. And there isn't as much resistance as there was, say, even 6 months ago, 8 months ago. People seem to be going, oh no, this is safer, smarter, better.
Yeah,
And
because
that's,
like the whole Greta Thunberg approach
yeah.
of like we should all not have kids and like
Yeah.
basically not get married and live like a bunch of Eskimos. That's not going to work for people.
No.
People want to be able to drive their electric Hummer,
Yes.
and the only way you're going to be able to provide that to them is if you electrify the grid.
Well, it's interesting. We work with a company called First Phosphate, and they just did a deal with the Excom Bank of the U.S. for it's an MOU of 175 million, and it's
amazing.
Phosphate, so it's for these lithium phosphate batteries. So the Tesla 3s and all those type of things you see, like they're building like a bunch of plants in Ontario. But their strategy, which is interesting because we talked about it before, was they came out and said, our entire goal with this high-grade phosphate is to be a pipeline to deliver it to battery manufacturers for and in the U.S. And of course, the U.S. went, oh, really?
Yeah, I saw your LinkedIn post about this First Phosphate, and again, it's going to take time till they get all the kinks out, sort all the kinks out. But they have a good asset and they have the path, and that's really what matters is putting together a team to execute. But look, I'm sure, I don't know the story behind them, but I'm sure that there was a couple of years where they were also struggling because that's
God, yeah,
like where they were literally trying to probably pull a couple pinch pennies together. And the reason why is because that if you go to venture capital world and ask for money for these kind of projects, they will not help you because that innovation is dead in the West.
It's really bad. It's poor. And even with a good news release, the stock gets pounded and people go, what just happened?
We need a lot of reforms in the coming years ahead in how we do business. And we talked about this like a socially conscious capitalism, about actually capitalism working for the people with the people.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of like it too. There's a type of like a patriotism, is that you get back to the old school, like, I believe in this company. It's part of my family, my future. I'm investing in it. I'm not going to sell it tomorrow. I'm with them for 10 years, for 20 years, because it is innovative. It's this, like, it's a whole different mindset rather than, oh, I'm going to trade something, make some money. Well, then what are you doing then? Well, I'm going to try to find the next thing. And it's like, well, why don't you stick with one? If you stick with one, commit to it. They've got a business model you like. It's a lot less stress, and you're part of something bigger.
A nice diversified portfolio,
Yeah.
I think that's something that needs to happen, and it's not happening. But look, the U.S. government is starting to wake up to the problem.
Yeah.
And I think the Canadians are too.
Yes.
I think that what we really should be doing is we should be working on the Monroe Doctrine and building a massive tech corridor between the North America and South America and build up the South. We have enough natural resources and workforce to build this whole entire hemisphere into the whole Americas into a utopia.
I couldn't agree more. And it's just, and I feel like they're getting there despite political oppositions and stuff. It does need that whole mindset change though. And I think that the younger generation mixed with some like, patriotism would help as well, is that if people kind of harness that and go, listen, we're all fighting to some degree for the same types of things. And we have an opportunity right now, if we all really focus, get our act together, because we're kind of behind China right now. If we, we've got the innovation, that's no problem. And people don't mind to work hard. So all we have to do is motivate that properly. And that the money will flow as well. The gains will happen when that happens, when people start charging forward. They feel like I'm part of something bigger.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, can you imagine if you had a high-speed rail connecting North and South America?
Yeah.
Like, that would change. That would literally change everything.
Yes.
Like, it would start on like at Vancouver, right? Go down from Los Angeles down to Arizona or whatever, all the way to Guatemala. You could do it.
You could, yeah.
And then you shoot down to Honduras, go down all the way over there, Panama.
Yeah.
Cross the canal, Buenos Aires.
And you're hitting different pockets of, like, you've got the lithium corridor down in the south. You could build that up so you're not having it, like, there's lots of stop offs in between there along that stage
Yeah, and you
where
make one rail for people and one rail
yeah,
for materials, and
yeah,
you're just moving things up all along. It would be pretty incredible. We could dream all we want, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is that there's a ton of politics involved, and that's why I think we've done such a good job at Curio, really um, advocating for the nuclear sector in a way that we're focused on transpartisanship and focused on rising tide lifts all ships. A larger pie will make everyone full type of approach. I'm not a big believer that the federal government should just give two companies a handout. I believe they should work with as many companies as possible, and if you could keep demonstrating your technology, they'll help you get to the market.
yeah,
Imagine if they had started off every they had open FOA every 3 years, and then you have 20 companies that are selected with a $500,000 to a $1.5 million grant for 1 year to do their conceptual design, right? So that's a small team of like 4 engineers with a CEO to operate that team with a modest budget. They just paid for it, no cost share. Give them the money, $1.5 million, $2 million, whatever it is. Do your concept design. Now, after that, then there's a down select. The federal government says, okay, whose technology actually makes sense and has the best path, like the tech to market scenario. They have a good techno-economic analysis. They actually have a technology that's feasible, manufacturing. They've thought through all of these various metrics. And then you're like, okay, and then take that and then down select from those 20 companies 10. And then you select down from those 10 companies, and you give them $5 million or whatever it is for a 2-year program. And at the end of 3 years, then you select 5 companies and you give them each $250 million to go build their reactor.
yeah,
And you have Idaho National Lab, which is a great place to do it. And you have there the rail, you have the infrastructure, you have everything that they're connected to the grid. They have their own little grid there. And you build literally 5 reactors as demonstration reactors and use it to, and then the government could take the electricity and sell it to the utilities. Just go and sell it, the electricity. It's already there anyway. Just sell it for cheap. Give it the cheapest possible price.
yeah,
And then you'll say, well, the government's acting as a business. No, the government's recouping the money that it invested
yes,
into these programs, which right now is about, we just said 5 companies, so it's about give or take 1.5 billion dollars that was just invested to make these little demo reactors. And now you could say, Armico, like, you want to come and see these reactors, come and check them out. Which one works for you? You do like a reactor show where everybody comes and sees the reactor, and the customers start lining up. Department of Energy says, hey, this is Westinghouse, this is GE, this is their reactor. Just like you have at the Dubai Air Show, you have 5 different airplanes that are available to you, like for each segment. It's not the government, but the government here is not sponsoring, and it's just helping promote its customer. Hey, South America, who wants you have the South America delegation, they come. Here's our 5 different reactors. Which one do you want to buy? And this one says, I like this one. I like this one. Well, I need one for process heat also because I want to do desal plants on my coast.
yeah.
The guy says, like, no, I want something that's super safe because I'm very urban environment, so I need to have very safe reactors. Okay. There's a logic to how to do this.